Hi there, I'm delighted to be here with my good friend, colleague, co-spirit, Soleira Green. Great to see you. We've worked out about 5 or 6 years since we met for the first and only time in person, which was at a coaching event. I want to take a little bit of time just to talk to you a bit about yourself, your story, your work, where we are now. It seems that we seem to be at a very exciting time. I wonder if you'd just start off by telling everyone a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
Okay, I'm a visionary.
Visionary, tell us. I've got to stop you already. Tell us what that means.
Okay, for me, a visionary is someone who sees how life can be, but in the past, a visionary was someone who saw it out in the future, like 50, 100 years as a possibility. Today, visionaries are visionary creators. They see it, they do it. It becomes it immediately. So there's a very dynamic difference in visionaries today from what visionaries were 20, 40, 50 years ago. Very, very different.
And so how does that manifest itself? So somebody might be thinking, oh my goodness, hang on a minute. So I know in the past that people are visionary, they see ideas of things you're saying, that somebody can manifest something. Can you give us an example of practically what those kind of people are doing? Tell us just a little bit about that.
Okay. I'll give you an example of myself working in consciousness and reality. So I recognized that about 10 years ago that our access to intelligence was changing. Our ability to connect to knowing, to what's all there, how we can know things, is no longer a mental focus. Well, the whole education system in the world is built on a mental mind focus and memory. It's all on memorization. And how much can you stuff in there? Well, I realized about 10 years ago that that was dramatically altering, and that we were altering it since we're making our connection. Has it always been there? Yes. Did some people have it? Yes. But the mainstream, no. Well, we started to work in consciousness with that. So one, it would become so easily available to everybody. You just wake up into it and you have all your knowing. You see, you know, you sense, you're guided by a greater awareness of things. That knowing comes to you. It doesn't come out of here. It doesn't come out from what you've learned. It's like this is the computer and you jam software in. No, this is the internet, and you interact and engage and bring in knowledge, information, wisdom, guidance.
Wonderful. I know through this conversation we've got so much to talk about for those who are both very in tune to this and those people who will be just very curious or perhaps even skeptical about what it is that you're saying. So tell me a little bit about your early years, how you got into this whole world of
Well, it was kind of a whammo one day, just bang, I changed. So I used to be in corporates and making my way up the ladder and all that stuff. And then suddenly I became ultra-sensitive, so I'd walk down the street, feel other people's emotions. Didn't even know you could do that. Discovered there was a world of people who could do that. And got really curious. Started asking questions. How do you do that? What do you... And I realized that it was very disabling for those people to experience the world of other people's emotions. And in fact, so disabling that they weren't actually able to help the world. They were going down themselves with all the drama. So I began to explore the possibility that there was power in them, our hills, and started to look at the energetics of how one bees in life, and how you can activate potential, and how you can bring people into their fulfillment, into their passion, into their joy, into their contribution, from both energetics and consciousness and everything that you say and how you be with them.
And when was this? When give us a little bit of a time frame.
This was all 1996.
It's about 1996.
2001.
Right. So when I remember even when we met 5-6 years ago, this kind of stuff. Talking about consciousness, talking about awareness, talking about energy and so on. Of course there are people doing that, but it wasn't a common conversation that were being had. It was long before lots of people had heard about books like The Power of Now or What the Bleak Do We Know, or the Law of Attraction, all these kind of things that lots of people may have read, or books like Conversations with lots of people were not particularly... So how did this movement happen between the corporate stuff and then you've been really interested, noticing this ultra-sensitive nature, and then becoming very, very intrigued by wanting to look at all of this energy?
The world of energy is like a doorway to another world. You know, it really is. Once you become aware that there's a world of energy, that potential is energy, genius is energy, ideas they're sitting in the air around us. You have a different relationship completely to everything. And that just lit me up. So even though I had a bit of disabling time of being quite sensitive, as I worked it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I worked it until I could find this wonderful, magical ability in it to be with someone or some situation or something or someplace and just...
So how did then from being curious about these energetics to working, I guess, as a living in this particular field emerge, and coaching and so on? How did it become move from being that passion to a profession to what you did, having worked in that corporate world prior?
Well, I had already left the corporate by choice. I was quite disillusioned, you know. 80s,
what a surprise.
80s and 90s, I was already getting quite disillusioned. So I had left it, and I was working for a software company, and a small one, and I was enjoying life. But then I just kind of awoke, as most people are these days. This was in the early 90s, just woke up. And then in 1996 was called, 95 actually, was called to the UK, just compelled, had to come.
So when you say called, there's something in you just feeling that you wanted to move away. It wasn't somebody ringing you up and saying you've got
resist.
to... Right.
It was inside me.
Right.
There was such a calling for another path. And when I came to the UK, I had one of those peak moments where you see your life split. And there it is. There's the road that you've traveled, and there's this other one, and you make a choice. And I made the choice, and I left. I went back, quit my job, good job, sold everything I had, came home with 2 suitcases, and ta-da, here I am 15 years later. And it's funny, you know, I don't often encourage people to take leaps. I do think there's a more gracious way of it these days. I think we're in a place now where we don't have to, like, take those dramatic, but it's the best thing I ever did. So if someone's being called to it, they should take it.
Right. So this is interesting, this journey that happened. Were you concerned, nervous, scared, particularly by the time when you decide, okay, this is what I want to do, and exploring this is what I want to do, and helping other people unlock and enable this potential they have in themselves? Were you concerned about how that would be seen or perceived, given that in the mainstream at least these conversations were not?
I had a very unique response to that, actually. I remember in 1996 kind of hearing a calling of, are you going to transform the planet? And kind of going, are you nuts, you know? And one
because
day,
that's a typical reaction, isn't it? Once you start thinking about this.
we're too small for that. Right. And one day, I just out of almost kind of fury in me said, all right. And I was very scared because of what you're saying, the perceptions, the risk-taking, the judgment, the criticism. And I decided in that moment that it would not be that way for me, nor should it ever be that way for anybody again. And I decided that if I was going to transform the planet, it better be done with loads of fun, loads of great people, loads of good times, and it has been that way for me.
Got you. And let's explore this thing about transforming the planet, because this is the thing that is often very, very controversial. Yeah. I mean, on the one hand, it's very, very acceptable because we'll be aware that we should all use rechargeable batteries. We should all switch off, have energy. So on the one level, we're kind of aware of making changes that are going to have a global benefit. But once somebody says, and as an individual says, well, I want to transform the planet, people think, well, who do you think? Do you think you're this, that, or whatever? So what does this transforming and the transforming the planet mean to you?
Well, it's much more than making a few things a little better. Much more than that. And I think every person has something inside them to contribute to that. It's something so unique in them, in every one of us, that if they don't gift it, we'll be missing something.
Got you. So in a way, it sounds like you're talking about it in a very pragmatic, small but very big way, because it's about about that person simply being as they can be, beneath all the interference, in order that what they're wanting to do to manifest.
You know, our 20th century psychological culture made us think we were small. And we're not small. We're big, vast beings, hugely connected with all the learnings of all the times through all the cosmos attached to us. It's right here. And when we get out of that culturally induced response to be small. There's no arrogance in it. I don't think I have any arrogance in my body. But boy, do I know who I am, and I know what I'm capable of, and I know what others are capable of. The more I become that, the more I see it in others.
Got you.
That's the beauty of it.
Got you. Now, lots of people, I would imagine, listening to this will think, actually, Soleira, I'm with you in that I've also felt this thing that I felt stuck, either personally or in a particular job. Some people might have had that feeling where they feel compelled to move somewhere else, be it locally or internationally or what have you. But the rest of what you might be saying might seem a bit abstract to them, and perhaps it's linked to what you were talking about, how in the 20th century particularly being taught to be small. Here's what you do: you work hard, you get rewarded, you keep working hard, and very, as we were talking about, very mind focused.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about this. What would you say when this comes up? And I'm sure it does come up when some people are curious, or they've come along to your talks, or what have you. What's the discussion that happens then? Because I'm always curious about this movement that can happen from where people are very much locked into that kind of sense of thing. This is my world. This is how things are. This is my lot.
You know what's funny? I never meet those people. I have an intention that everyone in the world is open to possibility, and that's all I need. And so they're probably out there, but not in my reality. They don't actually show up, strangely enough. So when I talk to audiences, something happens. I don't know. I kind of spark that place in them where they know that's who they are. And they've just been waiting for the gates to open. So I don't open the gates for them. The gate's been waiting to open. And I'll just kind of, just in the conversation or the energetics, awaken it in them. And the gate's open.
Gotcha.
And they're off and rolling. Because it's not like they're waiting for permission. I don't even think they know they were at the starting gate, some of them. Or they know it, but they didn't know they were waiting for that gate to open. Do you know that?
Yeah, I do.
And the race to begin.
And there's something very subtle about that, isn't there? That we were talking before, because obviously you work in the coaching field and you train. We were talking about that subtle power of transformation, that presence, and we were talking about how sometimes it's interesting that as a coach, actually the client finds you. So there's this, and we were talking about this kind of dance. I guess one of the things that is often how I guess experience is a lot of the time I've been amazed that people come and see me and they have a particular perception of themselves and their world and their story that they've been told about themselves, and it just strikes me that the story that they've been told is simply a story. It's not true. It's certainly not the whole truth.
Absolutely.
It's an idea. As we were talking about,
it's a perception and nothing more. There's no truth. I don't even think that truth exists. I think there's just story and just perception.
And memories. And so I guess that
even the memories are perceptions in some cases. They're interpretations of something that happened from a perspective.
So it's this space where we can begin to then look afresh, because if those memories, those ideas, those perceptions are not me or ness, then there's a space.
Everything's possible.
Everything's possible.
Exactly. And you can flip that with people are so trapped by the psychological side of things. Oh, I have this feeling, therefore there's something wrong with me, therefore it must be something for childhood, so I must fix it. One of the things I've been at in the last year, this is going to transform the world big time, is what I call quantum emotion. What if emotion is your very powerful, smart body and being signaling you that there is energy moving to do something with? So what if anger is the tip of passion and a new kind of power that's going to propel you forward? What if fear is just that moment of exhilaration before you take the step? So I've been talking now about quantum emotion as the fuel that moves personal and planetary transformation. And
I think this is a fascinating space, isn't it? Because as you said, traditionally we're taught, like, I've got this feeling, I've got this gut feeling, I've got this feeling, or here, or this feels not, and linked to some quite limited ideas of what that means. I'm wrong, I should be doing this, I shouldn't be doing that. Whereas you're saying, actually, maybe it's not that. Let's just look at it.
That's a visionary's viewpoint. A visionary doesn't just see what is. You see beyond what is. You see what's possible. If you tweaked this, if you looked at it different, if you played with it a different way, what would be possible? And what happens is you discover whole new paradigms of approaches, like quantum emotion.
And this is interesting to me because a quote once came to me, it just arrived, which was, it's not the world that needs to change, it's our consciousness we need to raise. And I think that for me this speaks to what it is that we're talking about. There are the ideas that we've been given, that we foster, cluster them together about who we are, who we should be, how the world is, and all the rest of it. Which are those ideas? Big deal. And so often even our perceptions of the world that needs to change are based on these ideas of ourselves. Whereas actually it's just that shift of awareness in terms of moving, as you indicated before, from that mind consciousness to connection. To connection, right?
Well, because one of the things that's people would think, oh, if I have to increase my consciousness, then I have to go learn lots. No, you raise your vibrational frequency, and that's happening anyways. Solar flares and all kinds of, it's just everything is bombarding us with an increase in frequency. Even science is seeing that right now. There's whole new flares coming off the sun that are changing the measures of radioactivity on the planet, which is affecting matter, which is affecting consciousness. Isn't that amazing?
Isn't it?
I think that's stunning. So the frequency's going up. Our job is to learn to live in those new frequencies, and they give us a new framework of consciousness. Yes, we're creating it. Yes, we're sourcing it as well. There's a dance, there's a partnership. But the game is to raise the vibrational frequency. So if you take someone who's really concerned about the mess the world's in, their frequency goes here. They are now not able to do much really helpful to the world because the vibe they're spreading is a dense one.
Absolutely.
So it's not like you ignore what's wrong, it's that you raise your frequency and you see potential in everything. When you see potential in everything, you're uplifting everything to the frequency where potential magically swings into play.
And there's a lovely subtlety here, isn't there? Because as you say, where one feels as though pulls strong and in a particular, caught up in a particular area, when one's able to actually see and look and be aware of these different themes and so on, straight away the energy space that one's in is different. It's a far more neutral and in a way rich, even this word neutral's got a next a far more, which is actually far more rich, which is far closer to actually just seeing, okay, this is how things are manifesting, this is how people are vibrating, this seems to be the issues, the things, but there's stuff beyond, between, before and beyond all of that kind of stuff, which is just how our life is. So what I think's been interesting about this movement over the years since we met is, I guess, everything seemed. I loved when you were saying earlier on that when you decided, when the decision was made, or when whatever happened, where you made that, it seemed like a big step. Those big steps needn't be in quite that big way now. Sometimes there's this subtle sense, isn't it, that people are aware of, and it's easier to embrace.
You know, in the, let's say before 2000, all of our learning came from tragedy, trauma, and suffering, because we were in a world that didn't value change. It tried to keep everything in boxes. So in order to press yourself through those boxes, you created a tragedy. You might have an accident, you might go in a coma, you might, have someone, you lose someone, except there was all kinds of stuff. And while it occurred so tragically in the moment that you thought your life was coming to an end, as you look back, you realize that was the transforming moment. And so what's happening as we've kind of begun to be aware of this, we're now on the verge, I believe, and I'm working at it, on taking tragedy, trauma, and suffering out of the experience, because we can just embrace transformation, movement, evolution so graciously that for me, my life is just magical from the moment I get up to the moment I go to bed.
And there's something lovely about that, isn't it? I think that about being able to embrace that movement, that transformation that always is there. You can see it in nature, you can see it in everything else, we can see it in ourselves, we're not the same from babe. And actually sometimes that the lock is just our concern about this. Actually, when we accept, acknowledge, it has a completely different hue. Yes, we come and we go. This happened. There's seasons of times of ill health, but it's not disarming in quite the same way.
But I've never met anybody who hasn't gone through one of those tragedy, traumas, whatever, who wouldn't tell you, I knew I was supposed to do that. but I didn't. You know, everything in us knows. It's pushing us in the directions. We get all the signs, all the signals, and in the past have ignored them. The difference today is that we live in a dance, a gracious dance with those signals. So for me and all the people I know, the moment a signal comes up, we go, yeah, what? So we're excited by the possibilities of a next leap, a next new thing.
I love
That's
that.
Wonderful.
And I want to pause there and come back to that to talk a little bit about those people who are perhaps coaches, healers, those people who are in those transformational positions and leaders, which is the area that really, I think, really excites us both. So I'm going to pause it there.